Hey guys, Kenny Duncan Jr. back with the Coin Shop Podcast, bringing you in a really cool episode today with a good friend of ours, Patrick Ryan, who's going to talk a little bit about sports memorabilia and the parallels they have between rare coins and some of the things we do in our shop. We're going to talk a little bit about eBay Blocklist and how they can help you and your business save time from potential headaches and potential issues. We're going to talk about lab-grown diamonds versus natural diamonds. We're going to show you how we got burned and show you the tester that we're using now, and as we continue to go through revenue streams, show you how to tell the difference and how to maybe save yourself a mistake moving into the future. And we're also going to talk about a little bit about the new grading service that John Albanese announced last week. That and a lot more in this episode of the Coin Shop Podcast. Thank you very much. Coming soon. Another edition of the Coin Shop Podcast hosted by Kenny Duncan. Oh, wait, that's me. And this is my brother Matthew. We have a special... Sorry.
I was just saying, hey.
He was saying, hey. Hey.
Hey.
Okay. We got a special guest today, guys. A native Houstonian, a guy that I've known over the years and have seen over the years. A really great guy, a fellow business owner, and a guy who has built a really, really cool business, a very niche business, but also is really into sports collectibles and sports memorabilia. I have purchased a lot of cool items from him. He is my go-to guy when it comes to those things. He's helped us in various ways over the years, authenticating things and just helping me put real-time values on items as they come in the door. So I'm kind of giving you away one of my secrets, but I believe it's beneficial for everyone in the community, so I will introduce you today, Patrick Ryan. Patrick, thank you very much for being on the show.
It's awesome. Really love what you guys do and appreciate the educational opportunities from the podcast, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot today.
Sweet. So we're going to go normal show. Patrick's going to hang out with us while we go over some of the shop stuff that we normally do and some of the segments that we normally get into. We're going to run through some of these because I want to get right to Patrick because his time is definitely valuable, and I want to make sure that that he gets to cover the things that he came to cover, and also we've got some really cool questions for him. So if you're in the sports memorabilia world, or you collect baseball cards or grade baseball cards, I mean, this guy's got years and years, over 30 years of experience and knowledge in this field. And he's, like I said, he's the guy that I call when I need somebody to give me a yes or no, or if I'm 50-50 on the fence, this guy kind of helps and directs me. He also owns one of the coolest items that it just makes me sick that I don't own it. And I just, matter of fact, don't even want to talk about it anymore. I want it so bad. But anyway, no big deal. We're going to move on from it. So you own a company or a partner of a company for Event Elect. Give us a little bit of background about Event Elect.
So Event Elect started off as a traditional mom and pop ticket broker where we were servicing local businesses and families and customers that needed to buy and sell tickets. But as the StubHubs of the world really started to grow, we realized there's a lot more distribution. And with distribution came opportunities to partner with sports teams to help them access these channels and price their inventory and sell their inventory. And so today we're really a technology company that helps teams really unify their single game business. There's not a primary and secondary market anymore the way some used to think there was. Consumers are just looking for the right ticket on their favorite app, and what tickets show up and how they're priced is a pretty complicated science. So really? A lot goes into converting eyeballs. And if you don't have the right price or the right seat, the right location, people will choose to stay at home or go to Topgolf or do anything else with their money. And so we've dedicated a lot of resources to managing ticket inventory.
Cool.
We've got about 84 people currently. It's about doubled in size in the last 12 months. And that's just because of the teams needing more and more assistance kind of managing inventory.
Right.
So very fortunate to be where we are. And it does have some correlation to the concept of markets, and you guys are in markets every day, and every market's very different, but some of them have some very core tenets. And I'm looking forward to kind of talking about those commonalities between coins, cards, and sports tickets.
Right. Now, so let's go back to 2020. COVID obviously shut everything down, right? And then as we started getting back into musicians started going back to event centers and things, and then stadiums, and then football teams and baseball teams, other sports teams started having fans back in the seats. So is that when the explosion came back, is when everybody was looking to get out of the house and actually go to a function?
There was a lot of thought that would be the case. Consumers became a lot more discerning about what they were going to because they realized how valuable their time was.
Right.
It wasn't anything and everything. And so we've seen that sort of polarization of the hottest events are hotter than before, but the lower demand events are lower demand than they were before. So managing that ecosystem is a real challenge, and we're putting a lot of science behind it. And we've seen the collectible space, quite frankly, go that way. During the last recession in 2009, 2010. The brands that did the best were the cheapest brands, and then like the Chanel's and Hermes. Yeah. The Ralph Lauren's were the ones that got killed.
Yeah, sure.
And I think we're seeing that in just about every segment. And so
it's the rich get rich and the poor get poor. It's just, I mean, that's exactly what it is, right? The rich guys, they always want to buy the high end stuff, and then the guys that have less are still wanting to do or wear the same or wear similar things, but they're going to get it in another fashion. The middle seems to always get screwed.
Right? Yes, and I think that especially with consumer demand around how they spend their time and where they spend their money, you've got to create a lot of value, and I think that's where we're seeing a lot of pro sports teams and artists try to invest their time and resources to getting butts in seats.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Have you been in anything lately?
I haven't.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't been to anything.
I'm trying to think about what I've been to other than sporting events. I mean, obviously we have our season tickets as our Astro season tickets.
Where do you sit?
217, row 1, seats 1 through 4. So I'm right behind the dugout.
And you've probably had them since the building opened.
Yeah.
Because those are charter seats, which a lot of people don't realize that the Astros, the first 5 rows behind the dugout and the first couple rows of the club seat are actually licensed seats. That inventory is extremely valuable. The club level during the Astros playoffs has been really hot.
Oh, it's crazy. So we have 4, but I've got 3. So we got a total of 3 brothers with all of our families plus my dad who wants to go. So you've got 16 people that want to go to a 4 ticket with only 4 an event with 4 seats. So there has been instances where we've had to go out and buy similar inventory because we're accustomed to those seats because we love them. The club, if you've been to Minute Maid, the club is just by far, in my opinion, the best area because it's. You want to go to the bathroom, you go to a quick, clean bathroom really quick. You want food, drink, beverage, hot dog, or whatever else.
Yeah, it's all right there.
It's right there, man. You really can't beat the club level. Now, the Diamond Club's cool as well, obviously, but that's charter, and that's, old money and,
It's crazy, the demand. I mean, the Astros have a long waiting list for it. So they've created the Gallagher Club. Have you guys checked out the Gallagher Club?
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, a lot of teams are getting smart about, hey, look, there's people who are coming for the experience and the food and the beverage and hanging out, and they're willing to pay a premium. And so they were the worst suites in the stadium that they gutted and transformed into space. And guess what? Revenue's 8x of what those suites would have been doing.
No doubt.
And we're seeing a lot of teams do stuff like that. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you've got your 4 premium seats. So maybe you buy like 8 uppers and then see if you can buy 8 Gallagher Club passes.
Right.
I like how teams are giving you the ability to create some flexibility around your experience.
Right.
Sure.
So that's cool that you're on the forefront of that.
I've been to 150 professional sports venues, 17 of which no longer exist, and I'm a junkie for looking at premium spaces and how they're laid out and what they charge and what the entrance is like and what leaving is like and how the hostesses are. And so we do a lot of free consulting with our partners when they're recreating or reimagining spaces like that.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a business that I would like to think of myself as someone who's forward thinking, but that's something that would have missed me completely. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I actually did. I went to the Gallagher section. I think it was Cox, which has now been bought out a couple of different times. Whatever cable, it was a cable company that we do some advertising with, gave us, some, a 15 pack or whatever for the guests and employees and things like that. And you're right. They're kind of crappy, but they make the experience. You've got hostesses in there. You've got food. It's catered. And it's more of a hangout, get to know whomever your rep is type of event while you're watching the baseball game, not, banging on the dugout, die hard, trying to rally the fans. And since they put the nets back there, it's kind of, kind of a bummer to sit behind the dugout these days.
You know, so as a small business owner, I think a lot of us focus on the idea of, putting yourself out of business. Well, put yourself out of business before someone else does, because then you'll have a new business.
Right.
And so sports teams definitely saw the threat of sports bars, and think of the quality. Like 20 years ago, it was BW3s or some like shady, dirty sports bar. Yeah. Now these places where you can watch games are like really nice with like great food options.
Sure.
So teams are like, that's a threat to us. How can we reimagine the experience and get people to spend that kind of money in our venue? And so I think if you're in business, regardless of the business, A, think about putting yourself out of business, but B, think about what your customers really want. Look, Steve Jobs said your customer doesn't know what they want. Look, that applies to maybe 0.1% of businesses. If you're a business owner, you should be able to ask your customers what they want. Maybe not all the data is useful, but there's so many people like thinking about building the next app or next social media site. Yeah. None of those businesses are successful. But if you're going to run a nuts and bolts business, you need to ask your customers where else they're spending money and what you can do to be better to get more of their money in your doors.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that's basically the footprint for the Coin Shop podcast was how do we take an experience? So we were doing, and I don't want to get too much into the numbers, but we've grown substantially over the last 10 years. And it wasn't just during COVID. It's been really over the last 10 years. We've been doubling over revenue in a lot of those years. And a lot of it was, like you said, was listening to the customer, right? Trying to take as much feedback from the customer as we could, okay? Applying that into real-time business, and then again, looking for other avenues to create revenue streams. And one of the things that Matt and I talked about, we talked about it for almost a year, was to create a podcast or a YouTube channel to be able to share some of those experiences. How do you create a new revenue stream in a coin shop? And how do you, more importantly, protect yourself from getting your butt beaten, right? Or, losing money or, buying a fake or, it happens, right? And there's nothing out there that tells you. So if you're a small coin shop, or let's just say most coin shops start out as gold and silver buyers, right? Because that's something that that you can buy and sell. You can set your premium. I'm going to pay 95% and I'm going to sell it at melt. Yeah. So that however much revenue you do, you're going to make 5%.
Plus it's liquid.
And it's liquid, right?
It's easy to sell to other dealers.
Right.
You don't want to stock a bunch of new items that you can't sell.
If I go buy a Michael Jordan 86 from 85 Fleer PSA 10, I have an idea of what a 10 is worth, but what's it liquid on the table? What are you going to pay versus what I think it's worth? Where in the gold and silver business, to a refiner, you can always sell it at 99.5 of spot, 99% of melt or whatever the spot price is at the time, or full melt. So you have an actual liquidation number. So a lot of people like the gold and silver business because of that. So it's how many eyes and ears can you get to draw to your business, how much revenue, how much money can you spend, and then how much can you get to that place and how much can you sell it and turn that into profits. So we did that for a long time, and then it was like, okay, now we need more arms. Okay, now we've got this down to a science. We've got a lot of Houston coming to us because we're very aggressive in pricing, and I believe our customer service is the best in the world. So now what else can we do? Well, we added diamonds, and part of the segment today would be CVD versus real. Okay, GIA has been grading lab traded or lab grown stones for some time. GIA is like the PSA of cards, right? We don't sell anything but GSA certified stones in our shop. So we just don't sell them.
There's one other big, right?
EGL.
Okay.
But again,
it's crazy because I was helping my business partner shop for his wife's wedding ring, probably 12, 13, golly, whatever. And it seemed like just like 10 years ago, PSA and Beckett were neck and neck. It kind of felt like these two diamond companies certs were neck and neck.
Well, what's funny, so most of your, be honest, sorry guys, but like your middle of the mall places are going to be more EGL because they're a little bit more lax on the grade. So it's kind of like, let's just say for instance,
it's like SGC.
Right. Well, I don't know.
The third company.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it. So you're you're going in and you say, I'm going to buy this Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. And you have all these specifications of what you want, right? You want a certain amount of centering. I want all four corners sharp. The coloring has to be perfect. And, but I'm willing to give on this
The
area.
edges.
Okay. Right. So EGL and GIA, EGL is a little more lax in some of those areas. So their grading is a little bit better for the stores to be competitive versus maybe a jewelry company that's a family owned, or a jeweler that has a jewelry company that only specializes in GIA certified stones. It allows the mall to be a little bit more competitive in pricing. Okay.
They can differentiate via price, whereas the family-owned business is differentiating via service and reputation.
There you go. Well, and then quality too, because a GIA stone is going to be, in my opinion, is going to be a better quality grade and color grade wise, GIA versus AGL.
What's the numeric scale? Just so I have some context.
So?
It's VVS.
Well, okay, so IF would be your internally flawless, and then it goes to I3. So that's your scale. So like internally flawless would obviously be a pure crystal, no imperfections, and then an I3 would be, it could be all kinds of black inclusions. I mean, you probably can't see a facet, at all. You can't see any shine back, but when lab-grown stones came onto the market, which they've been around, but they really started getting good a couple of years ago, and CVD, which is basically the way that a CVD stone is created is that they have a seed stone, so they'll take a seed and they'll put it in this chamber or machine or whatever, and they basically pump it full of hydrogen and methane. And that gas at, I guess, 800 degrees Celsius, something around that, it just keeps creating an atomic bond around that seed, and it makes a stone.
Wow.
And then the stone is cut and polished just like a natural stone if you were to go pull it out. Now, a lot of reasons why people prefer lab-grown versus natural diamonds is because of how they're sourced, right? I mean, blood diamond.
It's you do see a lot more commercials though of the lab grown. Even today, I just saw one the other day.
It's something that I thought was going to fizzle out really fast, and it hasn't.
I know it hasn't.
It hasn't, and it's because they're starting to use that now, where it's like, well, this is because there is some blood diamond. If you've ever seen the movie Blood Diamond, a lot of diamonds are harvested in a very inhumane way. That doesn't mean all of them are.
Will GAI specify if they know if it came from Sierra Leone, which is, I think, the most problematic place?
So there was a time where they were going to actually put origin on there. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what happened to it. It was something that I read about in a few columns that they were going to start putting because, it's Russian or, like you said, Sierra Leone, or it's, but I never saw anything else about it.
Probably was going to create a lot of problems for people holding inventory.
Yeah.
And
The big guys.
people got shot in the head and got buried because that was a bad idea for some people.
Yeah.
The people
Sure.
controlling the diamonds.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a
for
bad
us,
deal.
it's probably it's great. But
I mean,
the
for
big guys.
for that person who's like, honey, I will not have a blood diamond. He's like, how am I going to know if this is a blood diamond or not?
Well, like I said, and something that I showed you before, looking at, just to take a look at these stones. I mean, there's not a person, or the ones you dropped on the ground, no big deal. You can't tell the difference. I don't care. Old Marty Rappaport could come in. And,
I just had a customer that had a stone of size, a 2.5 carat round, and he had another wholesaler. He had the stone side. He was asking about lab grown, and he had asked me, "Hey Matt, I mean, should I just buy the lab grown?
Thanks.
What are the pluses? What are the minuses?" And that's, I mean, we went over pricing. We went over the secondary market. If you ever were to upgrade, what you would do with the lab grown diamond, and
that's the part
what's
that's
the
scary.
They don't hold the value.
what's the value worth? Who's going to buy it?
I see
Can you take it to everyone and try to sell it to some of these places? Some places are.
You're not going to sell it to me.
I was going to say we're not going to buy them.
You're not going to sell it to me. I'm not going to buy it.
So.
Then why hasn't it disappeared?
Well, because there's
Profit.
some people profit. There's value.
Big margins.
I mean, think
So,
about it.
so we're talking about. So basically, you're saying there's these people that are they don't buy leather. Or they're vegan or whatever. Is this the market? Is it that narrow of a market?
you're probably not far away. But
Or-
let's start thinking about in terms of value, though.
Yeah.
So say, for instance, you're
Oh, you know what? It's a little bit like the watch market, right? Like certain brands hold their values way better.
There you
right?
go.
Some
Yeah.
people want to buy a Hublot. It doesn't hold its value the way a Rolex does.
No,
Sure.
not even
So these
close.
are like Hublots.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what they're like is they're like a well, you have so many great watchmakers out there.
Sure.
You've got like some really good watchmakers. Patek Philippe, FP Journe, I would say that are true watchmakers. And then the best production scale watch on the market, in my opinion, is a Rolex. Not only in terms of look, in terms of feel, but also in terms of value, and then in terms of resale value. A CVD stone is a great value when you buy it. Your liquidity when you go to sell it is eek. I don't know many people that would literally that they buy them. Now they will buy them, but they're going to buy them at some insane price
discount.
because they're already
Yeah.
90. They trade at 90% back of Rappaport right now anyway.
Yeah, and some customers just they want that big look.
They want that big
For a
look,
fraction
and
of
that's
the
what I was
price.
getting to.
Got it.
If
Okay.
your
Right.
wife wants a 4
Got it.
carat,
It can't tell a difference. It's
if your carat wants a 4 carat round, a 4 carat round GIA, let's just say it's an H, VVS1 or something, this is what I want. I want an H or an I color maybe, and it has to be, a VS1 or an SI1 if
And was
there's
that
no
50K?
black. It's like 80 to 90K. Okay.
Well,
Where-
since I said 50, you could sell me the lab one for 50.
No, the lab grown is like 15 to 20,
Oh.
yeah.
maybe.
And do they go to up to a certain size?
Oh, this
lab
is no
grown?
wonder.
Then they stop
This is,
on
no, this is why they've gotten more popular is because now they're growing bigger diamonds.
bigger diamonds. So it used to be what's the
Oh.
cutoff used to be 3?
It was like 2 to 3 carat
2
was
to
the
3
biggest
carat.
I would
Totally explains
see.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, now they've
Now
got
you get a
some
big rock
monsters.
for
Oh,
yeah.
this explains it.
Now they
This-
got some
okay.
monsters. So you've got these New York people or whomever, it's just socialites that are trying to keep up with the Joneses. And, her cousin just got an 8 carat upgrade. Now she's like, oh, I want my 8 carat upgrade. Well, maybe husband over here doesn't want to drop $250,000 on a diamond. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe he just doesn't see the value in it. But if he can spend $50,000 and buy one, and he's like, she'll never know the difference. Alas,
So here's where my mind went. I've always been curious about the markup on Tiffany and Harry Winston, right? Those big brands. Those
Huge.
It makes no sense. But if they come out and say, we're never putting a lab-grown stone in one of our cases, then all of a sudden those brands have a lot of leverage because the people who don't want to ever have their shit mistaken for being lab-grown,
Yeah.
they're going to get an obviously cut Tiffany and obviously cut Harry Winston, and they're going to start bragging about those brands because those brands lost a lot of power in the diamond market when people got more comfortable with like jewelry shops. I think the independent jewelry shop business has really grown over the last 20 years.
for sure.
Yeah.
And so you can go there like,
sure.
why would I pay 3X at Harry Winston? Well, now you will, so that you can tell people that an ounce of a doubt that it's not factory.
yeah, not lab grown.
Right. So this bifabrication is going to become very fascinating how the real diamond sellers figure out a way to differentiate
Yeah.
because it's going to matter because like, honey, do not give me the lab grown. We know the people that live in the house that's 1,000 square foot smaller than us. We know theirs is lab grown. I got to make sure we know. I mean, that's the way
Good.
that's
Get the Harry Winston.
right.
Yeah.
You got to get a Harry Winston. It's the only way people are going to know,
Well, remember, the most important thing is the education of it, right? And if you're a small coin shop and you do open your doors to start buying diamonds, then you need to be equipped. A, you need to know what you're up against, and then B, because for instance, the only reason we're even doing this because we did get burned.
Yeah. How do you
And
get
so
what happened?
Let me get it. I'm gonna show you right now. So this gray, if you can see the gray, this is your normal dossier from GIA. So this is your standard dossier.
That's a copper bronze.
Yeah, this is a copper bronze. The
That's
gray,
silver,
the
gray.
gray indicates a lab-grown diamond report. Okay, and we bought some stones, and just based on the customer we bought them from, and our guy at the time just kind of felt like he didn't need to go through all the semantics. Then I bought a CVD tester. So this is actually a CVD. This is the Optimum. It's made by Smart Pro. And this actually, and we'll show more videos. afterwards, and we'll do a little tutorial, a little 5-minute clip with Anthony. He's actually going to show you guys how to use this diamond tester and then how to steer clear from these mistakes. Now, this tester was, I believe, $1,000 or $1,200, and we've already caught probably 5 or 6 stones. So they're becoming more and more available.
Popular, yeah.
Exactly. And their popularity is increasing by far, right?
Yeah.
Because of the value.
So we're seeing like in rap videos and stuff like the diamond tester. Will that know the difference?
Well, maybe not
the
that
bullshit ones.
No, you will not be able to tell a difference off your standard, just little black Lamborghini, $299. Those will not test it.
Oh, this is going to become big in the rap world real quick.
Well, let me tell you, I can promise you there's some rappers out there who are going to be very upset at their jewelers.
All right, so any rappers who are watching this, you need to get this real tester. It's no less than $1,000. Because those guys are for sure getting hosed over. If the little $299 tester is marking those as real, 1,000% these guys are getting loaded up with them.
I've seen those little cheapo testers. I've seen them call it cubic zirconia. I've seen it call it natural. I've seen them call them not.
How many times where you have to go clean it or let me clean the diamonds? Something's picking
so we
up
upgrade. There's actually another product out there, and you and I were talking about trying to call and get it in. We were a little bit late on getting it in. We're going to try to get that product in. It's an actual chamber, and you put it in. You can slide a tray in there, and it'll actually color code the diamonds. So it'll pull out moissanite, CVD, HPHT, which is heat pressure, heat treated, and then your natural stones. So,
will most jewelry stores have something like that?
A lot of jewelry stores, believe it or not, don't buy from the public.
Oh no, that makes sense. Okay, but I'm saying if I'm buying and I say I want to see the,
I don't know, man. I'll be honest with you. If you have one of these with it, and it's inscribed, a lot of times we inscribe most of our stones just because we want a customer, because you can, with the loop, see the GIA inscription on the girdle. Right? So like if this number is inscribed on the girdle, it gives me a pretty good feeling that, that this guy is being honest with me and that's selling me a product.
How long have these lab diamonds been around, and to the extent where it's now becoming a much more
We're living in it right now. It's hype is now.
But there are definitely jewelry stores who've had access 4 years ago.
There's a lot of jewelry that are people that are selling them now, that are advertising, hey, we're selling lab grown because of the value, and it's a safe, environment free.
I just saw that commercial on that.
Yeah, no, listen, there's
that was
people that are capitalizing. I got a guy who's
all the custom jewelry, everything these rappers are buying, I'm sure they're getting taken to the cleaners.
Look, I would hope, and I would hope that most of these guys are being upfront and honest about it.
But if the diamond tester goes good, and for their IG account, I just picked this up from Mr. Flawless or whatever, not calling out names, but that type of guy who's got rapper clients and has 1 million IG followers, and that $299 tester is working, these rappers think they've got the real deal, and they very well might not.
Yeah, well, they need to upgrade to something like this, because the only reason we learned is learning the hard way. We bought a pair of 2-carat studs that were just knockout stones. I was like, wow, these are beautiful, and the lady was really good at selling them to us.
You think she was hustling?
I knew she was, by far, but she hustled the hell out of us.
So wait, you didn't buy these?
I bought them. We got burned. I'm showing you my burn right here. This is my burn. I'm showing you this is how we learned.
What's the loss?
We lost $4 or $5 grand. Yeah. I mean, it was.
But to a small shop.
Alas, this is why we do this podcast, though. We want to make sure that we're able to give guys that are building their name. It's not really also too more about the money to me. It's about reputation. Okay. So what if I would have turned around and sold these? Okay. And then sold them to a good friend of ours, who then in turn got them certified later down the road for insurance purposes or whatever happened. Yeah. And then they came back lab grown and they're worth 1/10 of the price. My reputation takes a huge ding. It's not something that I'm good or comfortable with. So again, it goes against everything that we do. So again, that's why we're bringing this subject up to you, because I feel like it's important that you've got to invest in your business, okay? You have to obviously invest in your reputation, okay? So, spending, $1,200, I'm actually going to buy this other machine that just came out that's even supposed to be better and be able to scan multiple, because the scary thing is Melee. Yeah. So the smaller stones,
I was just thinking that.
The 40
Someone
point.
just sent me a a picture and said, "Hey, what do you pay on this?"
Yeah. How do you know it's not all lab grown?
How do you know it's not lab grown?
Yeah. I mean, because, okay, so think about breakout. So think about the stone or the settings that have a bunch of diamonds all over, the smaller ones. When those get melted, they get recovered and they get sold in bags of normally like 50 to 100 carat bags. So this machine, you're supposed to be able to dump those in, spread around, and you can pick out the ones that are CVD.
What's a bag like that cost?
You know, they vary depending on the size of the stones on average, and then the kind of overall cut and clarity. But there's anywhere from $80 to $100, $120 per carat. So
I never would have thought like a high quality, high expense item would just be sold in a bag after like a bunch of stuff got melted down.
All the time. And that's the allure of the jewelry business, is because, you know, the really good take your Tiffany's, take your Harry Winston's, take your Cartier. The stuff that they make, Van Cleef Arpels, their designers and the way they set stones, you know, to me, I'll be honest with you, I think it's worth a premium. It is. I like it. You know, I'm a big fan of high-end jewelry because it's freaking beautiful, man.
It's built differently.
It's just built differently, man.
They take the time.
Every stone is cut.
Thing.
You know, we don't sell anything. Everything we build a lot of our own jewelry. All of our stones are calibrated, which means everyone's cut to match. Yeah. So if you buy a tennis bracelet from me, each stone is going to be matching to the T.
Yeah, perfect.
We don't just pull stones and throw them together like a lot of companies to hit you for a price point. I'd rather sell you a quality product that I'm not scared to buy back. And our markup on jewelry is 20-25%. Where jewelry stores, you know, I'm not even going to speculate, but I can tell you it's a lot more than that.
Plus,
for sure.
Especially our custom line is
our
it's
custom
all
stuff.
hand set. So each setting is made for that diamond, or it's made for those diamonds that are cut that way.
We give away our custom.
So you don't have a lot of stone. We don't have a lot of people bringing back our bracelets trying to, hey, the stone fell out.
No, doesn't happen.
Because it's made for that setting.
You know, as a collector who's got diverse interests, you know, I'm not a car guy, right? And so if I don't understand the delineation of some of the Porsches, right? But like some of them, they look identical, but because the engine's different, it's $180,000 more.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a value to that collector and that person's of interest. It's just like that with Van Cleef Arpels and the Tiffany's and Harry Winston's. A lot of people are like, no, that's stupid. But if you have an eye for it and you appreciate it, then you can see it and recognize it. Sure. I think that's what's really cool about the growth of alternative investments is that you can learn these nuances and see what nuance resonates with you. Maybe you don't care about it being PSA 10 and you're fine with PSA 9s. Well, then that's great. That's where you find your value. Yeah. There's other people who want the BGS black labels because it's the best of the best, even though it's still BGS. PSA doesn't have a competitive product. Right. So like these nuances and niches within the segments is where I think people have a lot of fun and listen and get educated and can talk for hours. Like this could probably go on for till midnight tonight. So.
Well, it's cool. Like, you know, when you start getting into the vintage stuff too, like vintage Van Cleef Arpels, vintage Tiffany, vintage Cartier. I mean, the way that they made the craftsmanship that some of these designers and jewelry makers were doing before things were crazy popular like they are now. Wow, they've made some amazing stuff.
So this brings up a question I had about the business, because I think that like, as you know, you hang your shingle out, you spend money advertising, you're trying to bring people through the doors. A lot of times these people don't know what they have. And I know, like, so for example, there could be a 1960 era Van Cleef Arpels piece that's worth $30,000, and then one that just because a couple stones are different is worth $60,000 because it's that much more rare. Yeah. How do you guys handle the situation when the customer's like, I'm fine taking 30 for this, but you know it's worth 60?
Oh, well, that's easy. So when a customer comes in, and it could be on a vintage piece, it could be on even a coin or currency, and they want a certain price, when we're asking, you know, what are you asking for your piece? It's typically just to figure out what the customer is thinking. You know, sometimes they say, well, I haven't done a lot of research. Or, you know, why don't you give me the number? I don't feel comfortable putting a number on it. That's where our specialty, because we come up with the number either way. We already know what we're going to pay for it, or we have some of the items in stock. And, you know, I think that's what me and Kenny have kind of been more comfortable with the customers, is just kind of sitting down, giving them a fair, you know, number on what they have.
So basically you have a bandwidth of like margin, and you're just like, we want to be within this bandwidth regardless of the customer's opinion.
Already know the customer that we're going to, you know, maybe sell. We have a few customers in mind we're going to sell it to. And then, it's just knowing, you know, we're comfortable with our fair margin, and we trade the piece and we get to see it again one day.
Right.
Place it with the customer.
And 9 times out of 10, we overpay versus underpay. So like back to the question you asked was if the customer is asking 30,000, but because of our vast knowledge of this piece, it's really worth 60. Do we pay 45 or 50? Based on using our knowledge, and that answer is yes. But that rarely happens. It's more of
the opposite.
Yeah, they come in with
over.
Crazy
I've
high.
watched Antique Roadshow.
That's why we ask.
Right, 8 out of 10 times the person's like, they're way higher.
Yeah, because you learn about the customer when they're sitting there. They'll say, maybe the item is worth $5,000, and they say they want $12,000 for it. It's no different than when a customer brings in a jewelry appraisal and their item, and you got this high, inflated number,
which is a scam, by the way.
Right,
it's an insurance scam.
And they
jewelry appraisals.
They come up. They say, well, this jewelry appraisal was put on. I had this done a decade ago, and I've heard the market's better than it was then. Why won't you? I was thinking, they come up with a number is probably 25 or 35% more, and that's their number. And you have to explain to them that's an insurance appraisal, and we typically sell a fraction.
We call it the
number.
We call it the 4-to-1 rule.
Yeah, it's a 4-to-1 rule.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's literally worth 25% of the appraisal to probably replace it at the end of the day. Okay, so if you come in with a ring that's appraised at $100,000, its true value is probably worth $25,000. Okay, yeah. And I said a scam, and it maybe is a little edgy, but it frustrates me because you're not giving anybody a real true indication of what it's worth, and that's kind of like the smoke and mirrors part of the business that I don't like, and that's something that we're totally against. I mean, like I said, we end up paying more money because I'm a sucker for something pretty. It just happened not too long ago. I bought a vintage Cartier ring, and I actually have to show it. We're going to show you this beautiful vintage Cartier ring that I bought that's been sitting in my safe. Like, I don't even know why it's not out. Because I love it. I mean, I would never, it's a woman's ring, so I'm obviously never going to wear it.
Well, hey,
but
pick your ring.
But it's so cool. And it's just the ruby is one of the most red rubies, and a lot of people think that rubies are easily red. It's so hard to find a red ruby, a true blood red, pigeon blood red. It's not easy to find, and one that's got no inclusions like this one is what I would call crystal. Like, it's actually like a piece of crystal that has no inclusions. The stone that Cartier picked for it's beautiful. Now, one of the digs on it is the origin. It's something we talked about earlier. Like, why doesn't GIA put origins on? Because in the semi-precious world, origin is everything. So a Burmese ruby with no treatment versus a Mozambique, depending on the size of the stone, could be worlds away apart. And
why is that?
Yeah,
the rarity.
Oh, okay.
And then also the material itself. I mean, there's a silky smooth presence in Burmese stuff. Or take a cashmere sapphire versus a Ceylon. Yeah. A cashmere sapphire, when you see it, the color is so beautiful and majestic. It's got a color that you just don't see. And you can almost tell right off the bat.
We had one that we thought it was
cashmere.
And
that was the doctor's, right? It was a 20 karat.
Yeah, it was the 20 karat that we did a video on.
Guy thought it was, $1 million stone. And if it was cashmere, it was worth every bit. But it was actually turned out to be Ceylon. And we had to send that to not GIA. We sent that to AGL. To me, that they're the PSA of semi-precious stones. Chris Smith over there does an amazing job. But AGL to me is, there are some.
What did it come back as?
Ceylon.
Madagascar?
No. It was Ceylon.
It was Ceylon.
Yeah, Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. That's right. It's Sri Lanka.
You thought he had $1 million and he had what?
Oh, it was $100,000, $110,000 or something, right?
I wanted to pay 80. I think I wanted to pay 80 grand.
And someone,
for it.
Someone had offered 150. So someone had already seen the stone before. They didn't have it certed.
Yeah, and
they took a shot at 150 or 180, right?
No, it was 150. They took a
this
shot
was
at
a while
150.
ago. So yeah,
we offered to send it off to get it graded because I wasn't sold that it was cashmere. It was royal blue. Now royal blue is like the nuts, okay, in color scale when regarding sapphires, okay, but cashmere is this silky blue that,
Totally different look.
oh God,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
It's like a pigeon blood ruby. You know, I think there's some of the most
Where do you
beautiful
think
stones in
do you
the
think
room.
he took a hit on it?
No,
No,
it was
passed
bought
down.
so long ago.
Yeah.
It was bought probably in the 50s and 60s, back when it didn't matter, and
Right.
or if it did matter, but it just, you know, it was probably a $5,000 stone or less back then.
Right.
And that's why I love antique and vintage jewelry so much, because that's where you find that stuff. So again, another great revenue stream is in this jewelry world, but you've got to do the homework.
Yeah.
And it is fun, because it's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. When you get into emeralds, you know, and Blake, our brother Blake, has handled some of the most beautiful Muzo green. The Muzo mine create, they pull and extract some of the most beautiful green emeralds you're ever going to see. We've bought some and they sell immediately.
Yeah, they always do.
We have a very high expectation, and
So do you have customers that you see a piece and you're
100%.
like,
yeah.
okay,
100%.
sure.
I've got people's names on it. If I see a certain stone, I'm like, I'll put a customer's name on it.
and do
I
they
know.
live within 5 to 50 miles of here? What is
Yes.
that? Is that the radius? 50
Yes.
miles?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I've got a guy who's in kind of in the Austin area, that anything that's like $1 million, if it's got the right everything. Now, when you start getting into, you know, $500,000, $750 million stones, sometimes people want 2 to 3 different certs. Okay. So you'll get AGL, GIA, and maybe a GRS. Some people don't even look at in the semi-precious world. They don't even regard GIA, believe it or not. But I think I've heard it's getting better. But, you know, GRS, AGL are the really the big ones.
Yeah, the Parallels Collectibles is so amazing here, because my buddy David, we co-owned. I bought it out of him recently because I don't like the idea of co-owning stuff. I kind of went on a rant, like, just be a man and own the whole thing. So I bought him out of it. It was a Warren Buffett signed check. Now, you would think that there's like hundreds of Warren Buffett signed checks. There aren't. For some reason, he either wasn't ever signing them or they all got kind of held back.
Yeah.
It's one of 2 graded by PSA.
Oh, wow.
Now, it came with a JSA letter. We went and got a Beckett letter, and then we got it slabbed by PSA.
There you go.
So for something like that, it's like there is no questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's tough though when there are items out there where, you know, it's got JSA and PSA, but Beckett didn't like it, and some combination. Does that happen in the stone
All
world?
the time.
Yeah.
And that's why they require multiple certs, because somebody might call it cashmere and the other one might call it Ceylon. And you're like, well, wait a minute. You know, we need a tiebreaker here. And this actually happened recently with a big stone that we had, remember? And
Yeah, that's a
What happened? What was the outcome?
Okay, so I want to make sure I say it correctly, because I don't want to. It came with a certified letter from a major, it was either
One of the 3.
VCA, one of the big 3. It came with the letter. The cert, the AGL cert, coincided with the letter, and then another grading service didn't like it as such. So now, you know, you've got smoke, you know, and when there's smoke, there's fire, right? So it turned one customer off, and it kind of snowballs, right? And that's where
Is there like a Reddit or subreddit where people talk about this stuff, saying, hey, be careful of this stone at this particular location?
No, it's the Coin Shop podcast.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, but I know what you're saying. Like, you know,
Because like trimmed cards and stuff, right? Like, like there's forums where there's stuff in PSA holders that was trimmed. And like, you know, some of the stuff you do need to cross-reference and go to the Blowout Baseball Cards forum, because there's guys who spend their lives identifying these trimmed cards.
Right.